This video we're going to field strip one of everybody's favorites here. This is the AR-15. This particular gun has a set of gg&g uppers. It's the Dominator 1 kit from gg&g. It has a aim point, zero magnification red dot scope on it. Have a set of G&G bipod legs on it here, and it has a Bushmaster set of lowers here. Regardless of who makes the individual components of your AR, it's going to field strip much the same way. Major differences between the ARs being, this one is a direct impingement or direct gas gun. Some of them are gas piston guns. I do not have a gas piston to show you. Breakdown is primarily the same. There are a few components inside that are different, but we're going to cover most of what you'll need to know regardless of the type of AR you have. Now, first thing we're going to look at here is there are a set of pins right here that hold the upper portion of the gun onto the lower portion. Now, one side is going to have a flat head on it, and the other side you can see the pins, and they can be pushed into the gun a little ways, and then they can simply be removed, typically just with your fingernail. They might be a little tight on your gun if it's newer. Now, they don't come all the way out, they just simply come up probably about an inch, which will release the lower portion of the gun, which contains the stock, which has a buffer spring in it, which helps dampen recoil and slow the slide down as it moves backwards, and the trigger and the grip, of course. This piece we're going to set aside. The uppers here, this is the piece that contains most of what you're going to need to clean anytime you break one of these down. If we pull the charging handle back, without the lowers on it, the bolt assembly and the charging handle will both come out. The bolt assembly itself will also need to be dismantled in order to get all the individual pieces out of it to clean it. First thing we need to do is there is a recessed pin that's down in here that oftentimes you can pull out with your fingernail. Sometimes you need to get a little pick or a screwdriver, and the pin just pops right out. That is the firing pin firing pin retaining pin, and once it's out, you can pull the firing pin out of the bolt. From there, we need to make sure that the bolt is pressed all the way forward. As you can see, it rotates slightly, pushes forward and back there a little bit. The bolt retaining pin here needs to be turned 90 degrees. It's rectangular. It needs to be turned 90 degrees so that it will come out past the gas receiver there. Then once this retaining pin's out, the bolt can be pulled out, and there are the pieces that the AR-15 will disassemble into. One of the common mistakes that people make when they buy one of these guns is they don't fully dismantle the bolt carrier group here and clean everything out. This leads to real problems with the AR-15, particularly for the DI or direct gas guns, because this gas receiver here on top of the bolt carrier, anytime a round is fired, gas is fed from a small jet in the barrel here back through a tube inside the rail here and out a port down inside the uppers here that will actually catch this gas receiver to drive the bolt carrier back. So obviously, anytime you're sending spent gases from a bullet back into the bolt, you're going to have a lot of additional fouling and carbon that builds up in there, and all of these pieces need to be cleaned very well and very thoroughly, or you could end up with jams, misfires, all kinds of problems from, as with any gun, an improperly cleaned gun just does not work well. AR in particular, with the DI system here feeding gas back into the bolt carrier group, it will foul up very bad. If you do have a direct piston or a gas piston gun, you'll need to clean the piston just as you would have to clean the portions of the bolt carrier here that the gas travels back to. I'm going to go ahead and reassemble this now. The bolt, put it back in, and you're going to, there's two sides here. One side of the hole slightly larger than the other. The retaining pin will only go in one way. It'll only go into the larger side, the portion of the bolt there that receives it. Once it's back in, we're going to turn it 90 degrees and then rotate the bolt back, pull it all the way back till it stops. We're going to place the firing pin back down inside here, make sure it's all the way forward. The firing pin, retaining pin, needs to go back in there. Make sure it's all the way down in there. All right, now to place the charging handle back into the gun here, there are a small set of grooves that the flared portion of the charging handle here will need to drop into. So we'll drop that down in there. The gas receiver obviously needs to go toward the front of the barrel because that's where the gas comes back from the DI system. Push it all forward until it snaps in place, just like that. And then we're going to place the lower portion of the gun back on, making sure that our pins here line up with the pin blocks here. And once it's in place, simply push these pins back through until they snap in place. And there is the reassembled AR-15.